Hello, people of the internet. I am Andres Perez, aka Kaiji Noir, here with episode 38 of Fully Endorsed. I am here, of course, with my co-host, Mr. Dillion McCandless, aka Super DM 64.
Can you believe it's already been 38 episodes, folks? I mean, wow. Sometimes it feels like it's only been 5. Other times it feels like I've been doing this for a million years. But
yeah,
38 it is.
It kind of feels strange. We were just looking back at our back catalog of episodes, and we were like, oh, wow, we did Tiger King, like, that long ago? It feels like just yesterday we were talking about that. And that was only like episode 13 or 14. We were like, wow.
Wow. And that was, we got to that one late too. Like that was months after everybody else was already finished talking about Tiger King, which is our MO.
Yeah, exactly. Like to, exactly. Speaking, since we, of course, our last episode was on Loki, pretty much after everyone else had already talked about Loki and had moved on to...
We like to take something that's topical and then sleep on it for like a month and then talk about it. That's what we do here.
Yeah. Like for instance, the moment we came out with our Loki episode, everyone was talking about What If, and I'm already doing an episode of What If with some of my friends, only it's going to take a little longer for that to come out. So by the time our video on What If comes out, everyone's already finished and is going to move on to like Hawkeye or some shit.
Yeah, Hawkeye is coming up pretty soon now. Yeah. It's pretty exciting. I'm all about that Spider-Man right now. I'm waiting for some Spider-Man.
Yes, and true that. And hey, given that it is given that it's currently like, the Marvel season, we got a lot of Marvel Disney Plus shows.
It's the Marvel season.
It's the most marvelous time of the year.
I'm like standing outside Marvel, like, yo, Kevin, get that Spider-Man.
You got that Spider-Man trailer? So,
You gonna hook me up or what?
So, yeah, with a bunch of Marvel stuff coming out, the Eternals just came out. A lot of Marvel stuff to enjoy all around, or not enjoy, depending on your opinion, which is perfectly valid either way. I decided, let's go back in time, back to an era where the MCU was still in its infancy, back to the year to 2010, when a particular animated TV series came out called The Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes. So
I thought it was 2011.
Oh, no, actually, it ran from September 22nd, 2010, all the way to November 11th, 2012, for a total of 2 seasons, numbering 52 episodes, and the reason why it was canceled, despite them clearly planning for more episodes and seasons, was so that they can replace it with the infinitely inferior Avengers Assemble, which was like Disney's attempt to sort of make everything look more like the MCU, whereas Earth's Mightiest Heroes was generally geared more towards the comics, with some influences from the early MCU days. And this was
yeah, it's an interesting mixture of elements too. It's like a lot of the stuff is ripped right out of the comics, and it's very classic Marvel. And then you've got stuff like Jarvis being an AI, which I was saying to you when we were watching is actually one of my favorite changes that they made in the MCU. I think it's a lot better to have Jarvis be an AI because it just makes him more unique. So he's not just an Alfred ripoff,
right?
So that's something that they borrowed in this show. There are other things. Nick Fury is closer to his MCU look, if you know what I'm saying. Still not exactly Sam Jackson, but although, in that vein.
Funny enough, as we go into season 2 of Avengers, we're covering, for this episode, we're covering season 1, which was the first 26 episodes of this series.
That's why it's taken us so long to make this episode.
Yes, that is a big thing, yeah. So this is like the most material we've ever covered for an episode of Fully Endorsed, and I hope the wait was worth it, folks.
If you wanted us to be comprehensive, I'm sorry. I cannot.
Perhaps for going forward, if we ever do anything that's also 26 episodes, which we may do for our next guest episode, we may have to watch these shows on our own time. But either way, I'd say it was still a lot of fun watching this series with you and I haven't like revisited this series since it was canceled in 2012. So it's like, I feel personally, this show has aged like fine wine. And while at the same time gives you a very interesting look at where Marvel was in 2010, when they were in that stage era where they were still introducing everybody to these soon-to-be A-list characters.
Right, yeah. And I'm like, I'm the resident Marvel expert here.
Yeah.
I'm the one when we watch one of these things that goes, Andres, that's a reference to this thing that happened many, many moons ago.
You're like, it's the Reaper. I'm like, who's the Reaper?
And I'm like, you don't know the Reaper, man.
Or when we got to like the Hulk episodes, you're like, oh wow, it's the UFOs.
Yeah, I never expected to see the UFOs, and you're like, who the fuck? And I'm like, the UFOs, man, the UFOs.
The UFOs? The UFOs?
UFOs, man, get your life
in order. Get your life straight, man. Don't tell me you're a Hulk fan unless you know who the UFOs are.
I'm the one who noticed that they changed the acronym for MODOK because I know what it originally stood for.
Yes. Yeah, it was like, I forgot what the MODOK stood for, but the last one was a K, which stood for killing. Like something organism.
Mobile organism designed only for killing was the original MODOK acronym.
Yes.
And in this show, it's spelled MODOK with a C because they replaced killing with...
Conquest!
Conquest, yes.
Yes. Which, of course, this is due to the fact that this was a show airing on Disney XD in 2010, so...
Right. But here's the thing, they could have just kept it a K and not explained what it meant.
I guess so, but it's like, if you're going to introduce
they could have just called the man MODOK.
But like, if you're going to introduce MODOK, is it MODOK or MODOK?
I've heard different pronunciations. The problem with comic book characters is... everybody read it a different way back when they were a kid, Right.
I bet you someone's going to think the main character of my comic is named Eric Martinez.
Right.
Martinez. Eric Martinez.
Right. It's kind of a Baba Boba situation. It's like one of them is technically correct, but I don't give a fuck.
Or Han Solo, Han Solo, Leia, Leia.
Only Lando can call him Han, damn it. Anyone else calls him Han, I flip. No.
Are you Billy D. Williams, sir, good sir? No, then get the fuck out of here.
Are you Billy D. Williams or Donald Glover that one time? If no, then see your way out.
I bid you good day, sir. Yeah, but I said good day. So, going back to Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, how aware were you of this show 10 years ago?
I was vaguely aware that it was happening. However, I wasn't really watching cartoons at the time. I wasn't really keeping up with any of that shit. Mm-hmm. So I was aware of it, like, in a very peripheral sort of way.
Yeah.
But I never watched any of it.
Okay, then. And I'm guessing you knew even less about the following show, Avengers Assemble.
Right, yeah, I didn't know shit about that. That's...
Which we saw, we skipped around through the first episode, and oh boy, what a piece of shit that was.
Right, yeah. Let's talk about Avengers Heroes United, Andres. Now
yes.
That's a show.
God damn. So for those who don't know, which I don't blame you, because nobody remembers Avengers, what was it? Avengers United We Stand. That's
Heroes?
What it was called. No.
Yeah.
Avengers United We Stand. So this was a show.
I was thinking of something else, but I don't know what.
Yeah. So this was a show that existed. I'm trying to look it up right now. So this was a show at the tail end of the Fox Kids Saturday morning late 90s string of TV shows, which included the likes of Spider-Man the animated series, X-Men the animated series, Iron Man the animated series, Hulk the animated series, and
all that good shit.
Yeah, and Fantastic Four, which people don't talk about as much. Avengers United We Stand came out on October 1999, airing only 13 episodes. It was canceled.
Silver Surfer too. Silver Surfer got an animated series.
Oh,
and if you
you're
think
right.
nobody talks about the Fantastic Four show. Just think about how many times you've heard somebody say, "Remember the Silver Surfer animated series?" Never. You've never heard that.
So yeah, mainly the big four that people talk about are Spider-Man, X-Men, Iron Man, and Hulk. Everyone else is kind of like, eh. And Avengers.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
This is just a random thing that came into
Go
my
ahead.
brain. I haven't thought about this in years, but do you remember that other Fantastic Four show that came on Toonami in like the 2000s? And it was like very anime inspired.
Yeah. I think it was called like Fantastic Four Earths. No. I'm gonna look this up right now because it's going to bug me the whole time. Fantastic Four World's Greatest Heroes. That's what it was called. Fantastic Four World's Greatest Heroes, which was one season, 26 episodes long, so half the length of Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes, which aired from 2006. Wow. For a show that was only one season, it lasted from September 2006 to February 2010. So I'm guessing it was one of those shows that was kind of like on hiatus before they finally aired the last of those episodes.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, television can be very strange in how they treat certain batches of episodes. But anyways, Avengers
Especially cartoons.
Yeah.
Especially cartoons like when you have a cartoon that's supposed to be like serialized, but then they just play it in like the wrong order.
Oh,
like that,
big time, yeah.
That always fucks it up. Like fucking Clone Wars. And the thing about that show that pisses me off is that they've never fixed it. They didn't fix it on the DVDs. They didn't fix it when it was on Netflix. Now it's on Disney Plus, and it's still in the wrong fucking order. They put it in the fucking broadcast order instead of the production order or the order it's supposed to be watched in. And so in order to follow that show, what you have to do is go online and find a list of like what order to watch the episodes.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that's super weird.
And it's really crazy, especially for the first couple seasons. Sometimes you'll skip from like season 1 to season 3, and it's like, how did they fuck it up this bad? I don't understand.
That is very strange. But anyways, what's even stranger, I would say, is the premise behind the 1999 Avengers series, where it's like they had already established Iron Man, Captain America at that point. Not sure if Thor ever appeared in any of those previous 90s Marvel shows, but rather than using any of those established characters, they went with a roster that composed of Ant-Man, Wasp, Wonder Man, Tigra, Hawkeye, Falcon, Vision, and Scarlet Witch. Now, most of those names are people we know about today, but back in 1999, I can guarantee nobody knew, like any like kid our age, like 1999, so I was like 7 years old when that show came out, so I couldn't tell you who any of these characters were supposed to be, and on top of that, the show...
I could have told you who like half of them were at that time, but yeah, a lot of Z grade at the time, and again, they're most of these characters are very well known now because of the MCU.
Yeah,
characters like Scarlet Witch, Vision. The only two members of the team who still have not broken into film are Tigra or Tigress or whatever her name is.
Tigra and Wonder Man.
And Wonder Man, yeah.
Which I think Wonder Man, he was the purple guy in the like purple Dr. Manhattan in the show we just watched right now, right?
Yes, that was him.
Okay, cool. So, that show was a big failure. No one gave a shit about
Dr.
that.
Manhattan. Nice.
No one gave a fuck about Avengers United They Stand. So it ended up becoming Avengers United They got canceled. They're canceled.
It also looked really weird. It's a very strange looking show. And the backgrounds are like super detailed, but then the characters all look like they were
very plastic and shiny looking. Like everything.
Yeah.
And also,
Did you ever do that thing in like elementary school, like in an art class, where you color something with crayon and then you rub it with a paper towel and it gets like super shiny?
Yeah.
That's what all the characters looked like.
They just look like a bunch of wax dolls.
Yeah.
It's a really ugly looking show to boot. So maybe that was another reason why I did not want to watch that show. It was just an eyesore.
It's strange because all the other shows from that universe, Spider-Man, the X-Men the animated series, they all look great. you know.
Mm-hmm.
But that show is just and also the character designs are weird. It's supposed to be set in like the
future,
not too distant future, so everybody's wearing these like weird blocky like rescue hero suits.
Yeah, I think it was like their attempt to try to be more Power Rangers-y, because this was Fox Kids after all, and Power Rangers was huge on that block.
Yeah. This also fell victim to the fact that it was the late 90s, and so the animes were taking over.
And everything also, because it's the 90s, everything had to be extreme with extreme power armor.
Right.
Yeah, so it was a very weird show. In preparation for this episode, we did check out, like, skim through the first episode of Avengers, which United They Stand, and they introduced Ultron right out of the gate, and really, really bizarre time capsule of weirdness there, which apparently...
And then we wouldn't get another Avengers in animation until the mid-2000s when they did those 2 Ultimate Avengers movies.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You know, I still haven't seen either of those movies.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You should definitely watch the first one.
Okay.
I don't know if the second one is really all that necessary, but you should definitely watch the first one.
Okay. Cool. I know they're mostly based on the Ultimates comics from back in the day. So anyways, cut to the present day, or at least as of 10 years ago, God, I feel old, we have Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, which I remember when this was first announced, I was really excited, because at that point I had familiarized myself with the Avengers through the old Marvel comics. They used to release these volumes. I think I've already talked about them in a previous episode, maybe Loki or whatever, where there was Marvel put out these very cheaply made volumes.
You're talking about the big, like, essential volumes.
The essential volumes, yes.
They printed everything in black and white and everything. Yes.
On, like, cheap newspaper quality paper. And I learned...
Which is unfortunate, because these comics are those old 60s comics are so fucking beautiful in the original
super
color.
Yeah. I'd love to, check out, experience all of, like, all of Jack Kirby's art, classic Jack Kirby's art of the 60s. And you know what? This series, I feel like, aims to try to take those early issues of... It's like it tries to take the best aspects of Bronze Age classic Marvel with, like, later bits of 70s Marvel, 80s Marvel, 2000s Marvel, and try to, like, combine it together into a neat little hodgepodge of, like, the best of Marvel in the span of 26 episodes as of, this one season that we saw. And
they definitely took the classic sort of Marvel aesthetic that everyone thinks of, and sort of combined that with, I would argue, I think they took a little bit of inspiration from the Bruce Timm verse that DC had done in terms of their character designs. Just the way that everybody is proportioned, everybody has, like, these huge refrigerator-sized chests. It's very Timm-esque.
Yeah, women have their hourglass figures.
Yeah, exactly.
You're definitely right. This feels like a very, like, it's almost like this came from an alternate universe where Bruce Timm worked with Marvel characters over DC, which I would be interested to check out. I wouldn't be surprised if he is actually...
Bruce Timm has drawn Marvel characters before.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever seen his version of the Hulk, which...
I haven't. Let me check that right now.
A bit more into, like, the Frankenstein aesthetic, because Hulk was originally, like, inspired by, like, Frankenstein and, like,
oh wow,
and
you're
so
right.
He draws Hulk with, like, that old school, like, box looking head that he used to have in the very original comics.
I'm looking at that right now. That is very interesting. Yeah, it definitely makes sense, because, like, Bruce Timm always tried to go for, also, like with this show, goes for that more classic comic book aesthetic, mixed with his own stylized take on them. So, with Earth's Mightiest Heroes, at that point, I was a big fan of the Hulk, and it was through my research of the Hulk that I learned about the Avengers, started reading the Avengers through the Marvel Essential Volume 1 trade paperback. And so, seeing the commercials for this, I was like, holy shit, it's the Avengers series with the actual Avengers I want to see now. Because again, I'd known Iron Man since the Iron Man animated series, I knew Captain America, I knew Thor at that point. So I was really excited to see all these heroes join up, and this was 2 years away from seeing them on the big screen. And this was like 2010, so I was like out of high school, but I was still watching cartoons at that period because this was like the last bastion, the last era of action cartoons, with stuff like Ben 10, Generator Rex, Symbionic Titan, and of course Marvel Earth's Mightiest Heroes. So this really was like the best time for animated show for action cartoons before everything sort of catered more towards comedies.
Right.
The most interesting thing is when this series premiered, they started at like episode 6, I want to say, because the series started out with a bunch of spotlight episodes, focusing on episode 1 focused on Iron Man, episode 2 on Thor, episode 3 on Hulk, episode 4 on Captain America, episode 5, and finally episode 5 on Ant-Man, Wasp, and Black Panther. And so, but all of these were web exclusive episodes. So the real pseudo pilot, the first episode that premiered, was episode 6, which was the 2-parter Breakout. So with these first 5 episodes, not only do they establish each individual member of the Avengers, but they also focused on how there are these 3 major prisons housing various villains from across the Marvel lore, various rogues galleries that are associated with these different characters. And so
if you're a big Marvel nerd like me, some of the characters who are in these prisons, it's like they really went all out. They went deep on these references. Mandrill was in like the first episode, and I was like, holy shit, it's Mandrill. What's his name? Red Ghost and the Super Apes are in an episode. Fucking the Great Gargoyle, and like it's just like
Whirlwind, Crimson Dynamo,
Whirlwind, Crimson. Name a Marvel villain, and he's fucking in this show. I swear, it's great. And just all those wacky, insane, colorful, larger than life villains that you love are show up at one point or another.
Yes, and they also introduced like a bunch of reoccurring villain factions like AIM and Hydra.
For God's sakes, they put the UFOs in this show.
Yes, the UFOs.
And Zax.
Zax, yes, I remember him. Yeah. Or the Living Laser and Chemistro.
Living Laser, yeah. The Wrecking Crew.
The Wrecking Crew, yes, they were the ones that fought Thor when he first meets Jane Foster. Who is a sort of like a first responder rescue personnel. I forgot what the name you would call them.
Not since the first Marvel Ultimate Alliance game have I seen such an impressive roster of classic Kirby era characters. You know,
it's just
fantastic.
And a lot of their designs, for the most part, are very well done modern updates of their classic designs. Like, very rarely do you have a character who's like redesigned from the ground up. The biggest example to me would be Wasp, and I really like what they did with her design. Honestly, it's like
design is pretty good.
Yeah, it's a nice way of like distinguishing her from Ant-Man, giving her the classic like yellow jacket color, black and yellow colors.
Yeah, well, it's inspired more by that's one thing that's sort of inspired by the Ultimate Universe. The Wasp in the Ultimate universe always wore like black and gold as her colors.
Okay.
Which is carried over into the MCU as well. The MCU actually takes a lot of little aesthetic things like that from the Ultimates universe, I've noticed.
That is true, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see, meanwhile, we have like Thor. I love how they draw his cape, where it's almost like floating over his shoulders, as it has like these big arcs to the side, just like how Jack Kirby would draw them in the comics.
Yeah, I really wish we would have. I wish we could have gotten some Doctor Strange this season. I would have loved to see what they would have done with him.
Yeah. I'm not quite sure if Doctor Strange actually appears in the episode, but we do get a number of cameos. Most notably, we got...
He appeared in the Superhero Squad show, Andres.
Oh my god.
Doctor Strange.
You know who also appeared in the Superhero Squad, I hear? The fucking Punisher.
Yeah, that show also has a very extensive roster of like classic Marvel characters. But they're all just
babyfied.
Babies.
They're all babies. We don't have to worry about that with this show. So,
No.
okay, back to what I was saying before. It's very strange, bizarre, how they made the first 5 episodes exclusive to like the web. I forgot where you're supposed to watch them. Maybe on like a Disney XD website or whatever, because this was like before the era of streaming, or even YouTube perhaps. So yeah, it's very bizarre that they do that and then start off with start the series off on television with the 2-parter with episodes 6 and 7. But even as a kid who missed out on the first 5 episodes, because I had no fucking clue they were having web exclusives, or I guess I wouldn't be.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say as a kid, even though I was like 18 at this time. But
oh yeah, that's right. You were old as fuck.
Yeah, it's so bizarre now. You know, you look 10 years back, and you're still an adult 10 years ago. So that's when you know you are fucking old. So yeah. As a young adult, I had no idea.
Can't relate. I was a minor 10 years ago.
You still got time, but your time will come soon enough, my friend.
Scraping at the door.
Scraping at the door. Oh, you haven't used that line in a long time. But even as someone who wasn't aware of these previous 5 episodes, I really dug the hell out of the 2-parter, and I was like immediately sucked into this Marvel take on the Marvel universe. And honestly, starting off with episodes 6 and 7, I can see why, because it's a very bombastic way of starting things off. With this guy, forgot what his name was, but his whole deal is like gravity. Graviton, there we go. I knew it had to do with that. So all the Avengers or all the heroes have to come together and just, knock his block off and eventually decide, hey, you know what? With all these supervillains running amok, we need a team to take care of that. And it's a brilliant premise, I think, to start things off with, by having the heroes come together to recapture all 70 plus supervillains. So yeah.
Yep.
So what are your thoughts on their decision to make the first 5 episodes web exclusives?
I get it, because it might be weird if you were advertising this show week to week as this is the new Avengers cartoon, but the first 5 episodes are like not connected to each other.
Right.
At all.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand they wanted to have a way to introduce the characters, because again, this is 2010, and at this point, the Iron Man movies were very successful. Most of the MCU influence that is in this show is just from those first 2 Iron Man movies, because that's all that existed at the time.
And I guess Hulk kind of.
Yeah, but I don't really see any of that in here, though, and it doesn't feel like they really took anything from it.
I guess at the very least is you do have a version of Bruce Banner who is on the run and wears a getup similar to Edward Norton's version of Bruce at the beginning of The Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, that might be meant as a reference. Yeah, for the most part, it's pretty much just the Iron Man stuff. Mm-hmm. Because the other stuff that hadn't come out yet. So yeah, they needed to introduce, children to characters like Thor and Captain America,
which is Black Panther,
which is weird to think now.
Yeah,
children now, they've never known a world without the MCU. Young children,
and
Captain America and Thor and Iron Man, they just know these people.
Yeah, and heck, we live in a world where, kids want to dress up as Black Panther and Ant-Man, Wasp, and Star-Lord for Halloween. This is the world we live in now, dude.
But nobody wants to dress up as Miss Marvel. Stop trying to make Miss Marvel happy. Anyway.
No. Don't you mean Captain Marvel? Because Miss Marvel apparently is a great character.
I'm talking about both of them, honestly.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah. I keep forgetting about the new Miss Marvel. Yeah. That's another character they keep wanting to make happen, but as far as I know, she hasn't caught on in the mainstream yet.
No, she has she does have her fans.
Which is good. Nothing wrong with that.
I hate it. And I haven't read her comics, to be
Sure.
fair. My only main exposure to her is in that fucking video game, and hate. So we'll see. We'll see if you can do something good with her with that show that they're doing. But what were we talking about? Oh yeah,
introducing the characters.
The need to like introduce these characters and like establish their lore or whatever. So I understand why they have individual episodes, but also at the same time, the decision to put it on the web. I don't know. I'm of two minds of the subject. I don't know if it was a good move or not, frankly.
Now, I wonder if this was more of like an executive decision made at the last minute, where the writers wanted to naturally introduce each character before bringing them all together, until maybe at like the second to last hour, the producers said, this is supposed to be an Avengers TV show. Where's the Avengers? Skip to the part where they become the Avengers, and we'll put the rest on some website.
Yeah. It was really neat, though, to get, like, a whole Thor episode where it's just in Asgard and there's Thor dealing with Thor shit. And, like, a whole Captain America episode that's set in World War II, and Bucky's there, and he's voiced by the guy who plays Robin in the
Yes, that was wild.
And they're running around gunning down Nazis and shit, and, like, it's...
Oh, remember, Dylan, this is a TV show on Disney XD, so we can't have Nazis. It's all Hydra.
Hydra are Nazis, Andre.
not
that's
according
the meat part. They are.
That's not according to Disney, where it's like no, they're totally different things. Stop please disassociate them with Nazis, and at the same time, please buy our toys of them, because that's the thing. Nobody wants to sell a toy based on Nazis, so that's the excuse of Hydra.
I would totally buy an action figure of
Adolf Hitler.
No, I was gonna say, damn it, I can't remember his name. The guy from Indiana Jones is like, the little guy with the glasses who wears all black.
Yeah.
He comes into the bar and he's like, "Good evening, Fräulein."
I'm pretty sure those exist already, with a melted face accessory by NECA.
Whoa.
The biggest thing I think that's different from when it comes to experiencing this series starting with episode 1 versus watching this series at episode 6. So episode 2, which is the Thor episode, they establish who Loki is. Meanwhile, if you were to go into this episode, into this series starting with episode 6, they subtly hint at larger things to come, and it's later revealed that this whole season was all orchestrated by Loki himself. In fact,
it was me, Barry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you're saying you wouldn't necessarily know who Loki is,
right? It's
unless you're just a big Norse mythology nerd,
right? And there's like two different experiences between watching episode 2 and not watching episode 2. If you're not watching episode 2, there's more mystery and suspense behind who this mysterious foe is. Meanwhile, with episode 2, you've already know Loki, so at that point, a lot of that mystery and suspension is kind of dropped or lost. But at the same time, you're like, oh shit, he's coming back! All that stuff that he was hinting at the very end of episode 2 was starting to come full circle.
Right. The other thing is, if you start with episode 6, then when Loki finally shows up and him and Thor are talking to each other and they're talking about shit that happened in episode 2,
yes,
it feels strange. It feels like a lot of show and no tell. Or scratch that, reverse it. A lot of telling and no showing.
Right.
When in reality, they did show it.
Yes.
But somebody didn't go online. So I'm definitely grateful that nowadays, watching it on streaming, the first 5 episodes are just where they're supposed to be, and you just fucking watch it the way it was intended. Not that the order in which you watch the first 5 episodes doesn't even really matter that much, but still, having them there is nice, I think.
Indeed, yeah. And these first 5 episodes, they do a lot to establish the histories of these characters and hinting at things to come, both for this season and next season. The biggest one would be like for the Captain America episode 4, where it starts off with Kang the Conqueror, a future villain for this season, a villain for like the middle of this season, revisits Captain America and Bucky's story with their final battle against Hydra. And by the end, we see Bucky sacrificing his life to save Captain America. Where
watching the Kang stuff together not so long after we watched Loki was a lot of fun, because it was like, I remember when they showed his love interest Ravonna, and I was like, Andres, that's the girl from Loki, and you're like,
I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, they kind of do a weird like Nora Freeze thing with her in this show. But, yeah, that's her.
Right, and it was like, oh my god, it all makes sense now. And it's so bizarre, like coming off of, spoiler alert, Kang from the Conqueror from the Loki series, and then coming back to this traditional Jack Kirby era version. You know, he's got the blue skin, he's got the purple armor, he's got the green duds. His skin isn't
actually blue, but alright.
You know what I mean. He's still blue to me, damn it. So it's really fun to see these more traditional takes on these characters, seeing like Loki, no longer seeing the anti-hero version of Loki, but getting like that evil, conniving bastard of a villain he originally was. Getting a version of Hulk who isn't Professor Hulk, but he's just, that's another thing. I really love this take on Hulk, because he's not just a guy who goes Hulk smash. Rather, he's like, okay, I'll get into that first. It's so funny. This is something Dylan and I had fun with, mocking the entire time watching the show. I have this
problem with all Hulk media now, though. Anytime I read a Hulk comic, anytime I watch an old Hulk cartoon or one of the movies or whatever. So the internet has ruined the word smash. It no longer means what it used to mean. And so when Hulk says Hulk smash, I'm not mature enough to handle that.
Hulk do not care about drama. Hulk only wants to smash.
Especially this is the moment that we both died laughing at in the Black Widow episode.
Yes.
When
Wasp?
When Janet
yes.
points at Black Widow and goes, Hulk smash her. And that's when we realized that we are both children.
Yes.
But
yes, we are. Oh god. But anyways, going back to Hulk, I like that this fits more in line with the 60s version of the Hulk, where he's sort of very snarky, very sarcastic, far more chattier than what you would normally see in Hulk shows. The closest we ever got to like a more chatty Hulk was probably in Thor Ragnarok, but even then he wasn't nearly as witty as this version is, where he's always got some snarky one-liner against someone, like especially like bringing back the whole Goldilocks insults that 60s Hulk would normally call Thor back then.
Yeah, because again, this is classic like Kirby era Hulk. People forget that he used to talk a lot in his early appearances. It wasn't until later that they leaned more into like the whole Savage Hulk idea, and it just became a lot of roaring and saying Hulk smash.
Hulk fuck.
The best is when you rewatch the first Avengers movie and Captain America points at the big space dragon lizard thingy whale, and he says, Hulk, smash. And then Hulk just gives him that little smile.
Yeah.
Boy.
That's my secret, Cap. I'm always smashing.
I'm always horny.
Dun, 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 dun.
Can you imagine if that was his origin story instead of turning into Hulk whenever he gets angry, as he turns into Hulk when he's horny?
I bet you someone's already made a parody of that, knowing the internet.
It has to exist.
Let's see.
What were we talking about?
We were talking about Hulk and his portrayal. Let's see.
Oh, right, yeah, the more verbose nature of the sort of 60s Hulk.
Yeah, which he has a very good, repertoire with Hawkeye. Where Hawkeye, he's somewhat of like a they,
Oh,
what's the best way to describe him? Yeah?
I believe rapport is the word.
Rapport, thank you very much. He's got like a good sort of, how would I say, very good chemistry with Hawkeye that's like never seen in the MCU. Like with the MCU, they try to partner up Tony Stark and Bruce Banner a lot, and occasionally with Hulk / Bruce Banner and Black Widow. But for this series, they kind of made a partnership out of Hawkeye and Hulk, starting with the Gamma World two-parter.
Right. Well, Hulk spends a lot more time as Hulk in this show.
Yes, he does.
Because it's animated, and you don't have to fucking spend billions of dollars on CGI.
And so they got a good narrative reason.
Yeah, and this is also, again, based on like the early Avengers comics, where Hulk would just like be hanging out in the mansion as Hulk.
Funny thing is, Hulk only ever joined the Avengers for like he joined in the first issue and then dropped down the second issue.
Right. And there was a very brief period at the beginning of that second issue where you see him like just hanging out in the mansion.
Yes.
Before, what's his name? The Vanisher, I think is
the Phantom? No, that's not the Phantom.
Phantom. No,
let me check. I'm going to check right now. Avengers number 2.
It wasn't Vanisher. That's an X-Men villain. I just remembered.
It was the Space Phantom.
The Funky Phantom.
The Funky Phantom. Heavens to Betsy! I must stop the Avengers.
They're too strong. Mighty even. No, but yeah. So the Space Phantom fucked shit up and left.
And they adapted that storyline only with the Enchantress and not Karl Urban instead.
Yes, I love the fact that we got Enchantress in this show. I really like Enchantress. She's one of my favorite Thor villains, probably, second to Loki for most people, really.
Yeah.
And we got the classic Enchantress dynamic. Enchantress, her powers, Executioner as her loyal servant / simp, and her just constant pining over Thor.
Yes. She wants his hammer badly.
Right. And on all the while, Executioner is standing there like, just look over here, man.
And meanwhile, you got Thor who's like, "Be gone, thought!"
And then whenever somebody tries to hurt Enchantress, and Executioner's there to be like, simp powers, activate! And then fucking freeze them with his freeze axe or whatever.
Yeah.
I really like that we got that whole dynamic.
Let's see.
And it actually played a pretty major part in the plot, too.
Yeah, that's very true. She is one of the most loyal servants of Loki, so she is there to sort of be our red herring as to who's behind all of this this masterminding going on, manipulating going on, because we get Baron Zemo, classic Baron Zemo, constantly wearing the purple mask this time around.
Yeah, Baron Zemo in the house.
We got Baron Zemo. We got classic. Who's what's the name of the cyborg robot man? The German guy.
Oh, Zola.
Armin Zola. Yeah. Classic Armin Zola. Which, by the way, now that you told me that was like his original design, it was really cool watching Marvel's What If and getting a version akin to that when Armin Zola took over Vision's body.
Yes. Also, there was also that he was briefly inside one of the Ultron robots, and that kind of reminded me of it. And then, when he goes into the Vision body at the end of the season finale, and he's got his face projected on Vision's like stomach,
chest. Yeah.
I was like, "That's great. That's fantastic.
Right,
love that."
We got a really great introduction to Baron Zemo, and we got Baron von Strucker. In fact, one thing I wanted to mention was that this show really hyped me up for Baron von Strucker and Hydra, and so I was really let down when Baron Strucker practically did nothing in Avengers. What was it called? Age of Ultron, the movie, where he was quickly dispatched, and then we never really get a version of Hydra that's as cool as the one depicted here.
Well, I mean, you get Hydra in the first Captain America movie. That's pretty close to what you get here.
Yeah, but they don't got giant robots, Dylan. They don't got squid mechs.
They got laser guns in 1945. That's impressive.
Yeah, but why don't they got laser weapons in the present day?
Because they didn't got the Tesseract no more, Andres.
That's not fair.
You fucking took the shit. And then we get the fucking insidious Hydra that wormed its way into S.H.I.E.L.D. and like fucking just fucked up everything for the MCU pretty much.
Especially Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Especially Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
They got no more S.H.I.E.L.D. in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
You're gonna have S.H.I.E.L.D. in your S.H.I.E.L.D. show, right? Hello.
AIM was another disappointment for me because I heard AIM was going to be in Iron Man 3. They name drop AIM, and then it turns out to be nothing like the comic version seen in this show. Not even a MODOK reference.
Yeah, nobody ever adapts AIM correctly. It's so sad.
I want my beehive keeper hazmat suit AIM.
Yeah, you know what's funny enough? The best version of AIM wasn't even in the best like adaptation of AIM, rather, or the closest thing to it wasn't even in a Marvel show. It was fucking the way they did the Hive in the Teen Titans cartoon.
Wow,
like that feels more like AIM to me than any other adaptation of AIM I've ever seen.
That is true, yeah. Oh, another villain. We got the Leader in here, who's wonderfully portrayed here by what's his face?
What's his name? Jeffrey Combs, I think.
I think that was it. Yeah. And
I'm a big fan of this guy. He's Star Trek fans will know him for playing Wei-Yun in the Deep Space Nine, the mini Wei-Yuns, because it's a clone race. And also a character whose name escapes me, but an Andorian character from Star Trek, not Voyager, the other one, Enterprise. Who is a very beloved character. Jeffrey Combs is great, though. He has a really cool voice. So he does a lot of voice work. Most recent example I can think of is that he played Brainiac in Injustice 2.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, great voice actor. Big fan of his.
Cool. And
I think he voiced Scarecrow in TNBA.
Oh, okay. That's really cool. Let's see, alongside him, we also had the Absorbing Man and the Abomination, which I know you weren't too thrilled on Abomination's design.
I don't like the way Abomination looks, no. He looks fucking weird. It's like, he looks like he's wearing like a suit of armor. But I think it's just supposed to be his scales.
Yeah, they made him much scalier in this. They gave him like scaly armor in this version.
Yeah, and it's like a different color than his head, so it just makes it look like he's wearing like a giant onesie or something. It's fucking weird. I don't like it.
That's true. Let's see. Other versions of characters.
Now, the way Abomination looks in the Superhero Squad show, that's how Abomination should look. Just less chibi.
Let's see. In terms of other characters, I forgot to mention Thor. It's really cool looking at this more like stoic, almost like medieval Superman take on Thor, which was very refreshing to see, as opposed to the more dude bro version of him that we are accustomed to in the MCU. Which, don't get me wrong, I like that version of Thor, but it was really nice to see this more traditional take on him. And he's sort of like that. How would you call him? Sort of like this emotional rock, who's like, he's the most composed out of everyone else, and kind of sets a sort of moral. Him alongside with Captain America would try to provide this sort of moral compass for the team, while at the same time being this sort of fish out of water, stranger in a strange land sort of deal, as he becomes accustomed to the people of Midgard/Earth.
Yeah, the MCU tried to do a version of Thor that was closer to this in the first two Thor movies.
Yes, but nobody cared.
It just really wasn't working out, to be honest. I don't know if it was. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was just like Chris Hemsworth wasn't able to pull it off, or if it was something else, maybe the direction or whatever. But it just didn't really gel well, and so instead they decided to play into Chris Hemsworth's strengths. He's a funny guy. So that's how that developed.
That's very true. Yeah.
And they had the benefit of being able to look at the first Avengers, or both Avengers rather, at that time, that were done by Joss Whedon, and so everybody is just fucking doing Who's On First for 2 hours, and so you were able to look at Thor's bits in that and be like, hey, this guy could actually be pretty funny.
Very true. Let's see. I do remember one of my favorite lines was in that two-parter, The Breakout, where he's like, I did not know Midgard had ogres, when he saw the Hulk for the first time.
Right. Yeah. That was a recurring gag, too, because then in like the finale, when Hulk was fighting those... I think he was fighting actual ogres.
Actual ogres, yeah. Let's see. We got a very interesting take on Ant-Man and Wasp. They feel perhaps maybe the most different from their original comic versions, at least in terms of the Ant-Man and the Wasp. They kind of treated them in the comics. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dylan. They try to come off as that very typical 1960s husband and wife duo, where the husband's always in charge and the wife tends to be very subservient or obedient to anything the husband says.
I think they nailed Wasp.
Mm-hmm.
She's very devoted to Hank. She loves Hank.
Yes,
but
that is still there. But
also she's frustrated with Hank because he's so focused on science.
Yes,
all the time. Like that all feels on brand to me.
Yeah.
Hank.
They definitely made him very goody-goody two-shoes here.
Right. I think they went out of their way to make him a really nice guy to combat the fact that in the comics, Hank is kind of an asshole.
And a wife beater.
And he's gone crazy on multiple occasions and done terrible shit. The most accurate version of Hank Pym is in episode 3 of What If.
Yeah.
And like he wasn't written like that to begin with, but that sort of developed over time. And so I think in this show they were trying extra hard to be like, now our Hank Pym is a fucking pacifist. He wouldn't slap a fly, let alone Janet.
He wouldn't slap a wasp.
And so he comes across a little squeaky clean for my liking. He doesn't have sort of the classic Hank Pym personality.
Yeah. But I do like the fact that
even the more reserved, like Michael Douglas Hank Pym, where he's just like snarky and like rough and like old, is like a better take on Hank Pym, I think.
I do like their chemistry, especially with their very divisive views on being Avengers. Like you have Wasp, who she is totally for the life of the superhero. She loves adventures. She loves getting involved in the action. She loves doing good. She fully embraces the life of being an Avenger, a superhero. Whereas with Hank, he wants none of that, and he only does it out of obligation because he feels there's no other way out and is always looking for ways to resolve the problem through non-violence. And I think it leads to a very interesting dynamic with him and the rest of his team, and this is the sort of the basis that eventually leads to their take on the Ultron storyline. Yes,
which was really good. That was one of the best parts of the show. Was the Ultron 2-parter, 3-parter? I don't remember.
I think it was. I do like that how they transition from the Kang the Conqueror arc into the Age of Ultron arc, where they the team, or it was Hank who reprograms Ultron, who was originally just a glorified security guard. For the new super prison, using not Phantom Zone, and
it's the negative zone.
The negative zone.
It's from the comics.
I'm sure it was, Dylan.
It's more of a Fantastic Four thing, but you know, they're. Well, I mean, they
off
even
planet.
They even mentioned Reed Richards. They're like, Reed Richards discovered this place called the Negative Zone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, they reprogrammed Ultron to help them fight against Kang, and then one robot remained, and it's that robot that used its new programming for violence to realize the only way to achieve world peace is to make sure we remove humans from the equation entirely. And that's what leads in. I do like that. I like how they not only spread the seeds to what would become future storylines, but they also nicely transition from one major story arc to the next, while at the same time maybe having like a one-off episode, a standalone episode in between these arcs to give the audience some rest, some breathing room, while they start to build up to the next major storyline.
Quick! Nobody tell Ultron that other animals also wage war. It'll just drive him crazy. He'll be out in the woods just squashing ants for days.
Let's see, and they did cram a lot into this original this 26 episode season. Like I mentioned, there was
they really did. I mean, there's a lot. There's like a bunch of Hulk stuff. UFOs, Andres. UFOs.
The UFOs.
There's a ton of that. There's like
the Masters of Evil.
Masters of Evil. So much spy shit with like Black Widow.
Yeah. That's a whole other thing.
Triple agent. The whole Black Widow Hawkeye subplot.
The whole rivalry between Hydra and AIM as well.
Right.
We mentioned Ultron and Kang the Conqueror. We mentioned the Leader. There
Loki
was Loki,
Malekith, and
and Malekith. Yeah, we got a Malekith that's way more interesting than the one from Thor 2.
Yeah, they had Christopher Eccleston, Andres.
Yeah, I know.
They wasted their Christopher Eccleston. Why does everyone always waste their Christopher Eccleston?
And don't forget, we even got the OG Captain Marvel, as well as the introduction to the Kree, the Kree Empire.
We also got Miss Marvel.
Yes.
Not that Miss Marvel. Blonde Miss Marvel.
Yes. OG Carol Miss Marvel.
Fucking bastard. No. Carol
that bitch.
That bitch, Carol Danvers. We got her getting her powers and becoming Miss Marvel.
Absolutely. And we got quite a lot of Black Panther in this season. I'm sure for a lot of people this was their first introduction to the character, and they got him. They got what was his name? What was he called? I know his name was M'Baku, but what was he called?
Manape.
The Manape, as he called himself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Classic Manape. Villainous Manape. Not any of this Manape as a good guy that we have in the MCU. I'm so salty about that, only because Manape is easily Black Panther's most famous enemy in the comics. Like, it's like him and Killmonger neck to neck. And the problem is, Black Panther doesn't have that many like really famous villains.
True.
And they basically went through all of them in their first movie. They killed Ulysses Claw.
Yes.
They made Manape a good guy, and then they killed Killmonger.
Yes.
And I'm like, who is going to be... what are you going to do? And that was before Black Panther fucking died, so now I really don't know what the fuck they're gonna do.
Ooh-wee.
I'm very curious to just get a trailer for that movie.
Right, it's like they didn't know what to do with him, so that's why they made him Star-Lord for the What If episode. This
is way worse than what happened with Carrie Fisher. At least they had like the whole rest of their cast they could lean on.
Yeah. And there was they introduced a lot of those characters who would go on to appear in the MCU, and I feel like this whole series itself, when I first pitched this series to you, it felt like the testing grounds for what would eventually become concepts that would eventually appear in the MCU. A lot of these characters that we described are all characters that would go on to become very major players in the MCU, and I feel like this was where they were testing the waters to see how audiences would respond to them. And I feel like Black Panther is definitely one of those major players, given that they had half of the episode dedicated to him, and as well as Ant-Man and Wasp, which were also major characters that were given a shit ton of exposure via the MCU. And in the next season, we get perhaps most people's first mainstream appearance of the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, I was going to say, there are some major MCU players who are missing from this first season. Obviously, we don't get any Thanos.
Mm-hmm.
There's no Scarlet Witch, and she's like a big deal for the Avengers.
Nor Vision.
Her and Quicksilver and Vision.
Yeah.
I'm assuming they probably do Vision in season 2, if I had to guess.
I'm not quite sure. Let me just take a very
after you've done the initial Ultron becoming
yes.
sentient and trying to wipe out humanity angle.
Mhm.
The next most interesting story that you can tell with him is when he creates Vision.
Yes.
He also creates a wife for himself at one point. I forget what her name is.
Right now, I'm just looking through a list of characters introduced in Season 2. We got Doctor Doom, War Machine, Surtur, Miss Marvel, Ronan the Accuser, Abigail Brand, Henry...
That's right, there was no...
Mhm.
One of those ones that you just mentioned.
The Accuser? Ronan the Accuser?
What was
Miss...
the second one?
Abigail Brand?
The second one on the list.
Surtur.
No.
War Machine. Okay, Doctor Doom. Yeah, Doctor Doom.
War Machine. Yeah.
War Machine.
Fuck, I couldn't remember which one I was right. Both of them. No Doctor Doom is a big deal. But also no War Machine even.
Yeah. But he does appear in both appear in Season 2 alongside Luke Cage, Iron Fist.
I don't even remember if we ever even saw Rhodey. Did we ever see Rhodey?
Yes, we did. We saw Rhodey in the Iron Man episode and like the first episode, the two-parter breakout. He was just like there to say, "Come on, Tony, you're this is some dangerous business. You shouldn't be doing this." Or like him and they don't do if there's anything, they don't utilize a lot of Iron Man's supporting characters. I guess it's because
they have a little bit of Pepper Potts.
Yeah.
I don't remember even a mention of Happy Hogan.
No Happy Hogan. I don't think so. No. So, and I feel like because you're balancing so many characters and so much of their worlds, I feel like they were probably left on the cutting room floor for a reason. We did get a lot of...
the Mandarin.
No Mandarin, yes. We did get, like I said, Jane Foster, who I think is a very interesting character to play off of for Thor.
Yes. She's like an EMT in this show, which tracks because I think originally in the comics she was like a nurse because Thor's alter ego was Donald Blake, who was a doctor.
Which is a thing that they really abandoned for like the last several decades, I feel.
Yeah, that's another thing I think that comes from the Ultimates continuity, because in the Ultimates continuity, he never becomes a human. He never becomes Donald Blake. He's just fucking Thor. He's just on Earth doing Thor shit. So, I think that's another thing that sort of came from the Ultimates continuity and has sort of become standard in most continuities moving forward.
Yeah. Other characters they introduced in Season 2 are Beta Ray Bill, Red Hulk, Falcon, Glenn Talbot, Winter Soldier, Super Skrull. That's the thing. The very end of this season, spoiler alert, is a lead-in to the to the Secret Invasions story arc.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the whole Kree-Skrull war stuff that they set up in this season too.
Mm-hmm. That's the one major thing that's not resolved by the end of the season, and that's something that carries over into Season 2. One of the biggest players, Spider-Man, shows up in episode 13 of Season 2, alongside J. Jonah Jameson, Robbie Robertson, and Betty Brant. I previously mentioned they introduced Vision as well. And who else? Hank Pym eventually comes back. He leaves the Avengers and comes back as a Yellow Jacket eventually. Oh, apparently the Purple Man shows up. For anyone who ever watched Jessica, what was the show? Jessica Jones?
Yes. Purple Man is like one of the creepiest villains in all of Marvel, whether you're watching that show or just in the comics. He's great.
And there was another character that we got in the flashback episode with Captain America, Wolverine. Yeah,
they also teased the Winter Soldier at the end of this season.
That's very true. Yeah, because there's a point where the Hydra and I think it was Baron von Strucker and Captain America. They were fighting over the Cosmic Cube, which we now know as the Tesseract. And as they fight over it, it's implied that Captain America wishes for Bucky to have survived, and that's what eventually leads to sort of history getting retconned and him becoming the Winter Soldier.
I'm so excited at the thought of the guy who played Robin in Teen Titans getting to do the Winter Soldier. Like, that just seems perfect.
Yeah, I do wonder if they still have that actor play that character, that voice actor play.
They better. If not, I would be so pissed.
Yes.
Because he can do it. I mean, you remember the episode of Teen Titans where Starfire goes into the future and meets Nightwing, and does basically the same voice, but like darker and like rougher.
Yeah.
You could just do that for Winter Soldier, and I think it would be perfect.
Yeah. One thing I will say that one of my favorite episodes from season 2 was that at one point all the Avengers are out of action or missing in action. So there's a new team of replacement Avengers, which comprised of Spider-Man, War Machine, Wolverine, Iron Fist, Luke Cage, and The Thing, who must all team up to fight a returning Kang the Conqueror.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What about your boy, Big Daddy Galactus? Any Galactus in season 2?
Yes, he is there for the final episode of season 2.
Nice.
Yeah. So with season 2, they pretty much brought in every single hero that they had introduced up to that point and have them all fight Galactus. Admittedly, it is a rather rushed episode, and I think that's because this series was originally planned to go on, but because they were given like sort of the heads up saying, hey guys, I know you guys are planning a season 3, but you ain't getting a season 3, so whatever you're planning on, you better wrap this shit up quickly. And that's what led to Galactus showing up for the final episode, as opposed to having like a multi-parter like they did with Loki.
Yeah, Galactus really deserves like a whole arc. Damn it.
Yeah, I believe the prior 2 episodes was all focused on the Kree stuff. So yeah.
I see.
But yeah, there is a lot of content to explore that they explore just in these 2 seasons alone, and so I'm very.
It's a shame that they.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And maybe they would have had they gotten more seasons. But it seems like the one thing that's missing, because they've got all the superheroes and they delve into a lot of the cosmic stuff. It seems like the one thing that's missing is like the supernatural side of Marvel. You know, no Doctor Stranges, no Blades, no Morbiuses, no Ghost Riders. Hell, no Werewolf by Night.
That is true, yeah. And who knows, maybe a lot of that world could have been explained in a potential season 3. I'm sure there must be some stuff out there that's already been leaked as to what could have been Earth's Mightiest Heroes season 3. Let's see. And yeah, what they came up with in its place, Avengers Assemble, really does not hold a candle to Earth's Mightiest Heroes. Like, we tried watching Avengers Assemble, and they just try to cram way too much shit into the first episode, and it goes at like a ridiculously fast speed, saying, okay, then this happens, this happens, this happens, we have this character, and this character, and that character.
You can't follow it. It feels like it has like ADHD. It's constantly like, all right, we gotta get to the next thing. It's like, no, it feels like a kid telling you a story. Like, and then Iron Man flew in, and then the missiles came through the wall, and then Spider-Man, he zipped in, and then fucking Captain America, he took a shit, and then
you're meshy, you kicked with balls.
You're meshy.
That was a reference to a previous episode of ours. I think it was the JoJo episode. But anyways, yeah, it just goes at a ridiculously fast pace, and I think this was something that affected a lot of their shows going forward. For whatever reason, like, Disney dropped the ball once they got a hold of all their Marvel characters, because every show after this never was never recognized in the same, was never seen in the same light as these shows like Spectacular Spider-Man, Wolverine and the X-Men, and Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. Instead, we get a lot of stuff, very lackluster stuff, or stuff that people don't even talk about, like Avengers Assemble, Ultimate Spider-Man, Marvel's Spider-Man was another one, Hulk and the Agents of Smash, Guardians of the Galaxy, which I'm sure most people haven't even forgot existed.
Yeah, I feel like Disney as a whole at some point just like stopped giving a shit about television. Mm-hmm. Like, there used to be good Disney television when we were kids.
Yeah,
I don't think it exists anymore, really.
I remember the Disney Saturday mornings. I remember one Saturday morning. I remember the Disney afternoon block.
Shit like fucking Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers and
Darkwing Duck.
Darkwing Duck, my favorite.
Yeah.
Hell, fucking Pepper Ann. I don't know.
Yeah, the Disney era of Doug, if anyone remembers.
Yes, Doug, of course. Gotta love Doug.
Yeah, fucking gargoyles.
Gargoyles, man, gargoyles.
Yeah.
Timon and Pumbaa.
Timon, yes, I remember that a lot as well. Yeah, for whatever reason, it's just, hey, maybe we're just a bunch of old pseudo boomers and we don't know what's popular on Disney's television anymore. I know Gravity Falls was a huge hit, and then that finished up on the creator's part. Like, apparently Disney was like, give us a season 3 because it's popular, and he's like, no, I'm done, just 2 seasons and I'm done. And then they were like, fuck you, we'll make DuckTales instead. Let's see. I think, do you remember Marvel Rising? That was like that sort of thing that they made. It was like a one-off special, or maybe a couple one-off specials that focused on Spider-Gwen, Squirrel Girl, and Miss Marvel, I think.
No, but it sounds awful.
Yeah. Apparently our buddy Will, Crooked Lore, saw it, and he was just laughing throughout the majority of it. He's like, wow. It's like, from what I remember from what he told me, it was like the equivalent of Disney saying, how do you do, fellow kids? Yeah. So, anyways, fuck all that shit from the last 10 years. Go watch the Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes. Any last things we've talked about that we didn't mention? I know we didn't mention Captain America and Iron Man, which I would say they did a really good job at getting this. It's not Robert Downey Jr., but they got this guy, voice actor, who did a pretty damn good job doing Robert Downey Jr.-esque impression or performance.
Yeah, I think it's the same guy that they brought in to do RDJ and What If.
Perhaps, yeah.
Yeah, he does a pretty good job.
And
I'm not a fan of the Iron Man suit in this show. I don't know what it is about it. I think it's the shoulders. The shoulders look really weird to me.
For me, it's the mouth. Like, I like it when he doesn't have a mouth. He just has that red chin, like season 2 of Iron Man. I'm not a fan of just like the little mouth slit on the yellow face.
What I did love was when during the Ultron 2 or 3-parter. Mm-hmm. Where they had like all the classic suits come in.
Ooh, yeah.
And seeing all the classic Iron Man suits done in this animation style, that was really cool.
And we get like, especially like the Mark, he just busts out the Mark 1 suit. It's like, here's one you can't hack, motherfucker.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, that like the classic one with the fucking the like arms and the fucking like, you know what I'm talking about? Like the one from the 90s. Was there, and then like the one, the silver and red one was there.
Oh, the
like
Silver Centurion, yeah.
All of the classic Iron Man suits. They were all.
Heck, we got something akin to a Hulkbuster, which kind of looked unfinished, and a pseudo Thorbuster suit by the end of the season.
I even think, if I remember correctly, that there was one in there that kind of looked reminiscent of Iron Man 2020. So,
okay.
Good stuff. Good stuff all around.
Captain America, I forgot to mention, very classic character. I'd say he fits very much so in line with the Chris Evans version. Let's see. And this was like roughly a year before that movie came out. Black Panther, I remember you said you weren't a fan of his voice actor or that performance. They try to make him very deep-voiced, a very stoic take on him.
Yeah, it just didn't work for me. I don't know. He sounded kind of flat to me. Uh-huh. I thought that Phil Lamar would have made a great Black Panther for this show.
Yeah. Another
like
funny...
If I were casting this show in the year 2010, when I was fucking a teenager, had Disney come to me and like staff this show, I would have been like, Phil Lamar for Black Panther. And they would have said why, and I would have said Samurai Jack. That's why. And then
and Green Lantern.
Yeah, and Green Lantern. Yes.
What else? Another thing that we also noticed is how at certain points they kind of drop certain characters from the roster. They'd be like, Black Panther's like out chilling in Wakanda right now, or Captain America is in the hospital right now, so they'll just go throughout the entire
That was
episode.
a weird one, because I don't remember them taking him to the hospital. I just remember watching the next episode and being like, hey, where Cap at? And you're like,
yeah.
I think it's because the roster for the team in this show is just kind of too big, and they don't know what to do with them half the time.
Right. So they would occasionally have some excuse to focus on at least like 3 to 4 members at a time.
And they did the comic thing where like Hulk leaves and then Cap joins, but then the Hulk came back, and then they added Black Panther.
Yeah, and Hawkeye, because Hulk, he was like, I stay only if Hawkeye, if what was his name? I forgot the nickname he's in. Like, I'll stay only if Robin Hood stays.
And then fucking Black Widow got involved. It's like, how many fucking people we got here?
Yeah. Another thing to note about when it comes to Black Widow, they can't really decide if she has an accent or not half the time.
That seems to be a consistent problem.
Yeah. And what was the other thing is... Oh, yeah. The thing was, like, I feel like the animators had a bit too much fun animating Black Widow, I feel. Which I know...
Not as much fun as Genndy Tartakovsky had in Symbiotic Titan.
Ooh-wee. Yeah, we had no twerking scene in this show, thankfully.
Ooh-wee.
Or unfortunately, depending on how you view things. And let's see. I forgot to mention I do like the sort of pseudo rivalry / romance they got going on between Hawkeye and Black Widow. How he feels like this connection to her and feels very betrayed, and he's out for revenge. And he's got this like vendetta against her. They really made this version of Hawkeye more of like a hot-blooded, angsty dude compared to like the version we got with Jeremy Renner in the MCU, which was interesting to see and compare and contrast with.
Because MCU Hawkeye is a family man.
Yes, he is, and he is certainly not in this version. He's like, I live by my own rules, damn it. Overall, anything else that we haven't commented on in terms of certain characters? I will say with Janet.
I'm trying to think, but there's just so many. There's so much.
I really
we watched so many episodes that I can't remember what happened and what didn't happen.
I will say I really like this version of Janet. They gave her this new, more spunky, outgoing, go-getter type of personality, which I thought was a joy to watch on screen.
Yeah, she's great. She's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. I feel like she's probably the most updated version comparing all of them to their 60s counterparts, and I think it's for the best here. But especially when she came off as more of a sidekick in the original comics compared to here where she's proven herself as her own fully fledged hero. Wasn't there like a character that you guessed was voiced by the dude who played DCAU Lex Luthor, and then you were proven to be correct?
Yeah, Clancy Brown.
Yeah. Who was he?
Who was it?
Avengers.
I was like, is that Clancy Brown? And then you looked it up and you're like, yes, it is.
Yeah, let's see. Who was it? Just trying to look here. It was Odin.
Right, yes. Clancy Brown was Odin.
That's cool.
That's a great casting choice. He has such a good voice.
Right.
I also noticed Mark Hamill in a couple different places throughout the show.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Which isn't surprising. Mark Hamill's in fucking everything, to be honest.
Yeah. Very true,
he's the Kevin Bacon of voice acting. Everybody's connected to Mark Hamill.
Other thing I noticed is that the intro, really great, fun, very fun song. By the way, for the intro, I do like how whenever new members join the roster, the final shot of the intro changes depending on who's on the team at that point. These are two I will show you right now. This was from season 2, where they added Miss Marvel, Yellow Jacket, and Vision to the team. Just sent it to you via StreamYard.
Oh yeah.
And this is not that exact shot, but this is from the replacement Avengers that had War Machine, Spider-Man, Thing, Wolverine, Iron Fist, and Luke Cage.
Nice. Iron Fist with his fucking high water pants and his ballet slippers.
Oh, here we go. Here's a proper screenshot of that final shot in the trailer, in the intro. There you go.
wow, this is a big image. Gotta zoom. Or not zoom. Scroll. Gotta scroll. Yeah, this is good. I like the way they draw Wolverine and the Thing. They look great.
Yeah. So let's see. Anything else you wanted to bring up before we start wrapping things up? Since we've been at this for about an hour and 20 minutes.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else that needs to be said.
Let's see.
I really liked the guy who played Kang. He was great.
Yes, very, very good. Very cool. Let's see here. Wonder Man, I'd say, had a very interesting story arc going throughout the show, where he was someone who was seemingly screwed over by Tony Stark and was after revenge. And later you think he dies, but then he's brought back by Baron Zemo. And so he feels indebted to Zemo, and that's why he continues being a bad guy, but the heroes try constantly reasoning with him. That was fun to see explored. Let's see, anything else? Captain Marvel, she hadn't become, or no, Miss Marvel, Carol Danvers, she hadn't become a hero at that point, but they definitely leave on a cliffhanger before she becomes a hero, but her introduction I thought was very solid, as was Captain Marvel's. Let's see. Anything else? No, I think that is pretty much about it. So, yeah. This was, I guess the final three-parter where you have the, or I guess the final two-parter where you have the Avengers all separated and scattered across Asgard, or rather like the 9 realms where Thor lives, and them eventually all coming together, using their resources to survive in the 9 realms until they eventually arrive in Asgard to face off against Loki. I thought it was a very good, well-handled season finale. So yeah.
I agree.
So yeah, I think we pretty much covered about everything. So, Dylan, what are your final thoughts on Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes Season 1?
It's good. Everybody should go watch it. It's the closest thing that we have for Marvel to like a Bruce Timm era a DC show. You understand? Like, this is the closest thing Marvel has that comes close to like Justice League, or Justice League Unlimited even.
Absolutely.
And so if you're a Marvel fan, absolutely go check it out. You're gonna love all the little Easter eggs and references. Even if you're just a filthy casual, even if you're only familiar with the MCU, there's a lot here that you can enjoy.
Oh, for sure. In fact, I feel like this is the perfect introduction to the Marvel Universe for casuals and hardcore fans alike. Like you said, this is like, it hits that sweet spot that the DC animated universe did so well in the 90s and 2000s. And it's a real shame that they did not go any further with this continuity. Instead, trying to reboot the whole thing. And I think they tried to do they tried to do Ultimate Spider-Man and Hulk's in the Agent of Smash and Avengers Assemble. They tried to build a new continuity, even though they already had the groundwork laid out to them with this show right here. I really don't know what Disney was thinking when they decided to abandon this show and Spectacular Spider-Man. Which, one last thing, I did learn that I believe they try to get the voice actor from Spectacular Spider-Man to reprise his role for this series, for the episodes that feature Spider-Man, but I think it was at the last minute that he was dropped in favor of maybe the Ultimate Spider-Man voice actor, but I could be wrong there. So yeah, it's a real shame that we couldn't have gotten that bit of continuity between Spectacular Spider-Man and Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes.
So yeah, I think we both agree. Everybody should go watch it.
Absolutely.
I'm definitely going to check out season 2 on my own at some point.
Cool. And do let me know what you think, man.
Will do.
Awesome. All right. And so, what are we going to be talking about next time, Dylan?
Well, I would like to delve, due to recent events, I would like to delve back into the James Bond franchise. And much like I did last time we did a James Bond movie, I'm going to offer you a choice, Andres. Your choice this time is as follows. Brosnan or Moore?
Ooh, okay. You know what? I want to go chronological, so I'm going to go with Moore this time.
All right. Okay, in that case, we will be watching what many, including myself, would consider to be the seminal Roger Moore movie, his third outing, The Spy Who Loved Me.
Oh, nice. All right, then. So tune in next time, folks, when we get to check out my second ever James Bond movie and my first look at the Moore era. So stay tuned for that. Until next time, I am Andres Perez, aka Kaiju Noir.
And I've been Super DM64.
And until next time, everybody, take care. Excelsior, true believers. Enough said.